Hello, hello everyone, and welcome from Stockholm, which is actually a little bit snowy today. We got one of the first snows, at least in my area today, and I'm very happy about that because I'm not really sure if I would get any snow this year if I were in Poland. And I'm mentioning it because one, snow is cool, it's winter, there's barely any sun anymore, very good time for vampires, and second, because we're going to actually have guests from all around the world today in the show, either directly or non-directly, you will see. But we have a pretty cool episode in here today in which we're going to continue the hype from last week when we did the announcement about the upcoming TTRPG supplement and the changes to the TTRPG development and publishing that we are doing with World of Darkness. And we're going to basically expand it with telling you more about a lot of the partners that we are working with additionally to bring you guys TTRPG books around the world. First of all, we're going to have guests from Onyx Publishing, which is probably very much well known to you, but we're of course going to ask them about their regular work and what they're doing. For those of you guys who don't know what Onyx Path is cooking for you guys, we will also celebrate the new release that just happened today, I believe, or yesterday actually, with Let the Streets Run Red. And additionally, we're going to have a lot of the faces appearing from our publishing partners around the world. You'll see our friends from Russia, from Italy, from Poland, and from other awesome places. You're going to meet them for the first time on the new show, so I'm very happy that I am going to show you some of them. If you hear some weird stuff in the background, that's my daughter that is basically currently preparing Gehenna, but that's just, an everyday thing in here. And last but not least, we also will have a special guest from our own cooking place, Paradox Interactive. Dhaunae davier is going to join us. You probably recognize her from World of Darkness community. She's that wonderful lady in the video when you type into Google how to pronounce tsimitsi, shimishi, shimishe, chimichanga. You know what I mean? If you type that in Google, she's the one that appears in that great video, and she's also the face on in a lot of our TTRPG products from the past and more current. You probably recognize her, and she's the business developer in Paradox Interactive who is responsible for our contacts with many publishing partners around the world, and she will be here to tell you more about her work. So we're going to have a pretty full TTRPG focused day today, and something for those of you who like to read or those of you who like to role play, like we old people. And I'm going to jump very quickly on the call. We have Matthew and Dixie waiting for me on the call currently. I think they're currently in a conversation. I'm going to interrupt them very quickly and say, hello, Matthew. Hello, Dixie. What's up?
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. I'm going to show your beautiful faces to people on the stream. Let's do it. There we go.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
I was like, I saw you guys on the call today, and I was like, damn, I should have made a better makeup because I look very bad in comparison to both of you.
Don't say that. I just feel like when I'm on stream, if I don't put on a little bit, like I'm just a flat white void with glasses.
And I have it caked on layers of it, foundation up to my eyeballs.
As usual, Matthew, as usual. Yeah. And speaking of these two wonderful people that are right now on my right and on viewers' left, you guys probably know Matthew already. He was a guest on the show, and he's also known as the Gentleman Gamer on YouTube and in other places. So Matthew, we're going to do a very brief introduction for you today, and we're going to focus on Dixie this time. Dixie, could you introduce yourself to our audience?
Yeah, hi, I'm Dixie Cochran, Dixie Cyanide on pretty much all social media if you see me floating around, and on Discord. I'm the lead editor for Onyx Path Publishing, and I'm also in charge of Chronicles of Darkness and Exalted, which are still owned by World of Darkness folks, by Paradox, so it's a connection. But I have edited a lot of our stuff, and I've worked on a few supplements for V5, and I edited Chicago by Night.
And you're also a kick-ass role player. Let's not leave that.
Oh, thank you. I just have fun.
Okay, guys, so let's get to the meat in here, and let's talk about what exactly are we celebrating today, because we are celebrating kind of two things if we count things happening in the last week for Onyx Path Publishing. Matthew, can you tell us what is happening?
So yesterday we released Let the Streets Run Red in print and PDF via drivethrurpg.com. You can purchase it right now. And just a couple of days ago, we released the backer PDF of Cults of the Blood Gods out to the backers of the Kickstarter. We're currently accumulating errata for that, which we'll incorporate into the PDF before we do that game's PDF and print release to general sales.
Yeah.
And at which point we'll be sending all traditionally printed copies out to backers and getting into stores, that kind of thing. So yeah, two releases in the course of a week isn't bad. Isn't bad going for Vampire.
No, that's a lot of E5 this week. I am super excited for Cults. And yeah, it is still on BackerKit, right? If people want the traditional print run version before it goes to POD.
Yeah, and I hear that people who have been backing it on backer kits, even as of yesterday, are still getting the PDF now. So if you do back it on backer kits at this point, and you don't get that PDF automatically, and you back at a level where you should, just use the contact button on backer kit, and we can arrange to get you a link so that you can get, I guess, up to speed on Cults of the Blood Gods. But yeah. Two books we're all very proud of. The writers and the artists and our editors did wonderful jobs with both of these. And yeah, it's always a delight to see the community react to these books, because we're getting nothing but positive feedback regarding both of them. It's always heartening to see.
It's awesome, and actually, Cults of the Blood Gods released the very first manuscript for the backers back in the days. I think it was at least a few months ago. And I remember how I was participating in some role playing on Discord, and people were basically immediately jumping in to play Hecata, and there are already many awesome Hecata characters happening in the Chronicles everywhere, even though the book is still before its official release. So I guess this proves that the community sentiment was super, super good for it. And thank you guys for your hard work on it. And speaking of work, I want to ask you this question, which I guess I didn't ask you that, Matthew, last time. So we can start with you this time. How does your everyday work in Onyx Path Publishing look like? What do you do for people who do not know much about publishing and how it works in general?
Oh, very little, really. So my job, my, I guess, official title is in-house developer. And so that means I oversee the broader world of darkness, along with lines like They Came From Beneath the Sea, Legend Lore, Scarred Lands, just as Dixie mentioned, she does for Exalted and Chronicles of Darkness. But as part of that, that means sometimes I'm writing manuscripts, whether it's for games under my oversight or games for other developers. Sometimes I'm developing books. That means overseeing teams, making sure writers have got what they need to write whatever they've been assigned. Sometimes I'm doing red lines. That means essentially reading through people's work, making corrections, giving advice, instruction, criticism, that sort of thing. I might be proofing PDFs. I could be submitting art notes. I could be in any number of meetings or creating videos for the Onyx Path YouTube channel or Twitch. So it's a pretty varied tapestry of responsibilities, and it isn't a lie to say no day is exactly the same.
Yeah.
It's often meetings or recordings or something like that break it up. But because we commit to releasing something new every single Wednesday and have done now for several years, which I think I mentioned on Twitter just the other day. I don't know whether that is some kind of record for an RPG company, but we do release something new every single Wednesday, and we obviously have a lot of game lines under our oversight. It means that we are constantly jumping between projects, pushing something up to a certain level, finishing something off, or starting up a new thing. And yeah, it means that you are constantly challenged creatively and from a productivity standpoint, but it's also incredibly rewarding to work in this industry, in my opinion.
Okay, so where's the time for feeding in that? I mean, for coffee.
Well, I never drink coffee
All the
or
time.
energy drinks.
All the time.
Yeah, Dixie can have the coffee, but it is sometimes a challenge. I'm pretty good with time management. There are certainly points where I will choose to work a very long day, or I might work on a weekend, but it's never something that's forced upon us. It really depends on how we want to structure our days and the various and sundry demands put on us through all the other things going on in the world right now.
Right.
Sometimes you're less productive than others, but I don't know. I've always managed to keep fair work-life balance despite the volume of work that is under my responsibility.
Right,
So
which
what-
is something that where you and I are different because I come from a retail background for the most part. So I'm used to working like 2 days on, 1 day off, work at night on Tuesday, and then work during the day on Thursday and Friday. And I actually feel more comfortable doing that. So sometimes on a Tuesday or like a Thursday, I'll check my email and then I actually won't work that day because I know I'm going to be productive on Saturday. I'm like, I don't feel like working right now. I worked the past 3 days because I'm used to that kind of splitting up of my time.
That sounds great. And how does the work of the editor looks like, Dixie?
Oh God. It looks like way too many books on my plate at any one time. I do farm out, as I say. I assign other editors quite a few things. I try to handle some of the bigger stuff myself. Sometimes I don't have the bandwidth for it. I have a bunch of really great editors that I work with, like Matt Click and Nimrod Jones. That is his real name, I promise. He's very nice. And then actually Matthew's editing a small project for me right now. Matthew's done some editing for Cult, and he kind of was like, I don't want to do creative stuff for the next couple weeks. And I was like, here, have some words to fix. So my day usually looks like a bunch of emails. I talk to my various teams. I have meetings with people on things like Exalted. I don't do as much of the redlining type work as like Matthew and our other colleague Eddie do. I instead generally just answering questions and moving contracts around and trying to get a few hours to edit in the afternoon whenever I can. The more work we get, the more I've been trying to find like other editors, just because we have so many lines that we're working on. And I'd really love to have like an editor who is expert in each line, so I could just feel comfortable being like, this is my Scion editor. But it seems like whenever I get someone like that, they end up just not being able to take on the work, since it's usually freelance work outside of their own day job. So it's a roller coaster being the lead editor, because sometimes it's like, oh, there's only like 4 projects on my plate. We have all this time. I have everything farmed out. It's great. And then sometimes it's like the world exploded this year, and so nobody has time to take on extra work.
Yeah, unfortunately, the situation worldwide is really affecting the publishers everywhere. So, so unfortunately, that's the thing too. But this is actually a pretty good segue to one question before we'll go to actually V5 products and talk a little bit more about Let the Streets Run Red, which is if someone, because there's a lot of questions I get, if someone wants to work on TTRPG games and would love to write something for Vampire or Exalted or Cult, or basically make up their own RPG, because so many people have ideas for that, right?
Right.
Or work as an editor in the publishing industry. How would they approach this? Who do you guys are looking for if you want to expand your team of, let's say, writers or artists or editors?
Those are all different answers.
Oh yeah.
So for writers, I would say it's almost a 3-pronged approach that using today's standard. The first is make a submission to a company like Onyx Path, following the guidelines on our website to the letter. Don't try and be, and I apologize if this sounds a bit harsh, but don't try and be smart and work around it. Part of the guidelines are you need to be able to follow instructions. And if you can't follow them, then we're not going to read your submission. That's that. So make a submission that's around 1,000 words, half system, half setting. We have lots of people that can write excellent setting, not as many that can write excellent system. but it really does you a good service if you can demonstrate a handle on both. So that's prong one. The third prong is get involved in community content. Obviously, for Paradox, there's the Storyteller's Vault. For a lot of the Onyx Path properties, we have things like the Sloresian Vault, the Story Path Nexus, Canis Minor for our varying games. So you can start practicing your craft and making money from it by even just putting together a 1 or 2 page PDF, which could just be an interesting antagonist to put into They Came From Beneath the Sea or a game like that. But it shows that you are prepared to put the effort in, the work in to create a product, and also allows us to review your word quality in a complete product. And the third one, and this one's the more nebulous prong, is try and be active in the community. And there's a fine line between being active and being overbearing, and so this is why it's a tricky one. But if you can be supportive of the company that you want to work for, if you can encourage people to play the games, if you answer questions in Facebook groups, on Discords, and so on, it can really get you noticed. It's basic networking, but it's a really good way. And now that we aren't meeting people at physical conventions, it's one of the best ways you can get your name out there. There's people on, as an example, the World of Darkness 5th edition Discord, the unofficial one, who have done fantastic work with errata for books like Cults of the Blood Gods. And one of them, I'll give him a shout out. There's a person with the username Sharky on that Discord.
Sharky's great.
Yeah, Sharky's
in like all of our Discords.
Yeah.
I love Sharky. They are amazing.
Sharky has amazing system knowledge, amazing setting knowledge. And if Sharky was to put in a formal submission to work on one of our games, I already have the confidence that, yeah, this is someone with good interests and good work mentality.
Sharky, do you hear this? You gotta apply now.
Sorry to make you blush, Sharky. He's probably asleep right now. I think he's on the other side of the world. But yeah, in short, those are the 3 prongs you have to follow. It's not necessarily an easy industry to get into, but that's how I would recommend people do it.
Dixie, could you tell us a little bit more then about the artists who would like to join up and have their art displayed in one of the books?
Yeah, so there is the same kind of thing for artists. We have a submission guideline if you go to our website. That said, I know that we've seen people doing like fan art type stuff and gone like, that person's really good. I think that Mike Chaney found Amy Wilkins, who does like 90% of our V5 art now because she's amazing. I think that he found her on Instagram. Like, it was just like a random thing. So in the past, when we had conventions, we were always happy to have people bring their portfolios to the booth and actually show like Rich and Mike, because there are, art people. But now the best way to do it really is to have like an ArtStation account or a Deviant account, or even just a really good Instagram with a bunch of your art on it, and do that through our art submission, because Mike will see it. And it does help if you obviously like know what we're looking for a little bit. If you're familiar with our books, you're familiar with the kind of art that we tend to use. So V5 is a mixture of hyper realistic and kind of more abstract, modern painterly stuff. If you look at Chronicles, it tends to be a mixture of the Samurai pieces, which are those kind of abstract, creepy, scary stories to tell in the dark things, and then just people doing stuff. So once you're kind of familiar with that, that's also really helpful, because if you submit to us and everything you do is chibi manga, I don't know where we're going to use you.
I mean, if you ever make a chibi manga based TTRPG, then maybe.
Sure, maybe. But currently, the closest thing to any kind of manga or anime style that we have is Exalted, and we've gone more realistic with 3rd edition.
Matthew, I really want you to write a chibi manga one day. Just putting it out there.
Yeah, I'm sure I would be the best place developer for that. I'm sure everyone knows I'm a massive fan of anime, and I can see the game now. It's rolling out in front of me. I'm going to leave this call and get on that outline.
I'm so happy. Yes. Okay, we planted a very good seed in there. So yeah, let's get to the V5 stuff. And actually, as we are talking about how to become one of the writers or artists on your book, I've seen a lot of super awesome people who were shouting out both Cults of the Blood Gods and Let the Streets Run Red on Twitter, saying that they are actually participating in it as artists and writers. I've seen tons of really awesome diversity and people that you guys got on board. Do you want to shout out the teams that were working on these two books?
Yeah, well, certainly. I mean, both books had a very large roster of writers. When Cults of the Blood Gods is around 200,000 words, and that meant a large cast of writers. So people will have to forgive me if I forget writers' names, but I can give a special shout out on Let the Streets Run Red. We have got some tried and tested writers like Steffi Devan, Clara Herbal, who know Vampire the Masquerade really well, and their chronicles are proving quite popular. Also Crystal Meza and Rachel Wilkinson. We've had new writers on that book as well, such as Christina Horner, who wrote the ready-made characters for that book, which in an odd turn of events is my favorite part of that book, the ready-made characters, which is perhaps a strange angle to come in at. And one of those interesting things that said you mentioned diversity. It was inadvertent with Let the Streets Run Red, kind of inadvertent. But for the longest time when writing that book, it was a team entirely composed of, well, non-men. There was me, and no one else was a guy. In the end, we brought Jose Garcia in to write some of the content for that book too. But it was a really interesting dynamic. And I think it speaks wonders to the diversity of not just fans, but writers who want to get involved in Vampire and the World of Darkness. It isn't just white guys. Quite the contrary. And Cults of the Blood Gods as well. We had a large number of writers on there. Special shout outs go to Jacob Burgess and John Burke, who with me worked on the Cult of Death and Undeath, and I ended up writing the Hecata and Oblivion chapters. But yeah, all of those teams do wonderful work. Finally, if I was to give anyone props, and I always try and do this, it's Mike Cheney, our art director, because it's sometimes one could argue it's easier if you have actually established an art style for a role-playing game,
right?
Then being able to lay that out in all subsequent books for that role-playing game is easier than if you adopt an art style from someone else's core book, as we have done with V5, and yet make it feel Onyx Pathy and make it feel World of Darknessy. And somehow Mike, as art director, has been able to do that with Chicago by Night, Chicago Folios, Let the Streets Run Red, and Cults of the Blood Gods. And we see nothing but praise for the art and the layout of our books. So that's wonderful, and all credit to Mike on that.
Yeah, it was especially interesting for V5 because they use so much photography in the core, and that's just not something that our kind of small indie company has access to. Like, we don't have a photographer, we don't have a studio, we don't have, a way to rent clothes or any of that stuff. So instead doing just the very realistic portraits as much as we could, and then throwing in some of the other V5 style, I think worked really well. We have a couple of photos in there, the La Sombra clan, obviously, but not nearly to the scale of what the V5 core did. And I think Mike just handled that beautifully. Like, I am super impressed with every single piece of art in those books.
Yeah, I love it. And sometimes it's very hard to even differentiate between what is a photo and what is an illustration because of the amount of realism in there. So it's really awesome. And talking about the particular V5 books and the new release, Let the Streets Run Red, could you let our audience know what is this book about and why should they get it?
So Let the Streets Run Red was a stretch goal of Chicago by Night, and rather than it being a small supplement for Chicago, it kind of evolved through development into its own massive project, which, as I mentioned, has been very well received. It's a book that contains 4 individual stories for play to span across multiple sessions of Vampire the Masquerade. While as a default, they're set in the cities of Chicago, Gary, Milwaukee, and Indianapolis, and a nebulous rural community somewhere in Illinois or Indiana. The stories are designed to take you into different environments, expose you to different vampiric hierarchies. There's only one location where it's the typical prince, primogen, sheriff, harpies, and so on, because I'm very keen on demonstrating that different princes rule in different ways, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of fun with writing these games. And what I think is particularly profound about these is, as much as I love the Giovanni Chronicles, Transylvania Chronicles, and so on, from White Wolf of old, and many people know these games, they had a tendency to playing very much linearly and also putting you in the role of observers to great events.
Yeah.
Whereas with our Chronicles, and I would say starting with when I did Rusted Veins for the V5 playtest way back when, through to The Sacrifice in Chicago by Night and Sticks and Bones and Cults of the Blood Gods and the 4 stories in Let the Streets Run Red, we have, and I don't think it's too arrogant to say it, somehow managed to write 4 completely playable and flexible Vampire the Masquerade stories. And that's not an easy thing to do, because these are games based around playing social monsters who will get through most situations not through throwing fists or going through a dungeon and solving traps, but through role-playing their characters. It's very difficult to account for that on a page, but somehow we seem to have done it. And we seem to keep doing it, and that's a lot of the praise we're getting for Let the Streets Run Red. So,
yeah, no, my V5 home game, our coterie has gone to and from Gary based on material from Let the Streets Run Red and some of the characters in there, and it's super, super interesting because you take these, like if you're playing in Chicago, especially, you're probably playing, city dwelling vampires. So you're very, urban, you're very used to that kind of thing. And then you go to Gary, which is kind of a dying town filled with anarchs and vampires that don't quite cut it enough to be in Chicago. And suddenly you're the elites and they kind of hate you. And that's super, super interesting to role play, because in our Chicago game, we're like bottom of the chain, like we are new, we're all young, no one, knows anything about us. And then we go to Gary and they're like, oh, you fancy Chicago vampires coming down here, huh? What you need us for? And it's a really cool way to change up the dynamic of your game. We haven't done all the other stuff yet, but we probably will be actually going through a lot of, if not the stories, at least the settings and characters that are presented in there. So even if you don't want to play the stories as written, they provide super, super interesting characters and locations.
Yeah, they are perfectly suited to new groups who want to play their first Chronicle of Vampire the Masquerade. But equally, as Dixie says, there's one of my design philosophies has always been put as many story hooks as you can in any given paragraph. And
Matthew literally says in all the outlines that every sentence should contain a story hook of some sort.
Yeah, and it's not something that's got alarm bells on that says this is a story hook, but something that a storyteller can look at and think, this can be played, or I can incorporate this to make my story better. And we've done that to a degree with Let the Streets Run Red, which I would say of all of the Vampire the Masquerade books I've worked on, oddly, even next to Becca's Jihad Diary, is in some way my proudest.
Oh, that's great.
And it's an interesting one because it's a stretch goal. It should be, I guess, secondary to Chicago by Night, but I hold Let the Streets Run Red very highly for the sheer amount of utility you can actually find in every single page of that book. Whether it's looking for a different way to present a domain, incorporating an interesting character into your story, wherever it happens to be set. There's interesting powers, interesting lore sheets that are introduced
Speaking
in there.
of, I'm going to very
Yes.
quickly interest in here because I actually did check out the lore sheets for it. It was one of the things that people were the most excited about. Dixie, have you used the lore sheets from Let the Streets Run Red in your chronicle so far? And if yes or not, which one is your favorite?
Not yet, and honestly, I'm not as familiar with them because I didn't edit that book, so I would have to look through them to get to pick a favorite.
Okay.
I think the only lore sheet we have in our game right now is from the Chicago Core, but that's not to say we won't pick one up in the future. I'm sure Matthew has a favorite though.
I'm sure, but I actually have one question here, and this is going to be a mechanical question, so I'm going to throw it at Matthew live, because I'm super curious about one of them. I checked them out all yesterday, and there's one in particular, which is surrounding one of the characters and basically tapping into a person's past in order to recreate them in art. With basically bonuses to craft or either sculpting or painting. And I was actually wondering whether a Finnblood who has this sort of lore sheet ability can actually recreate someone's past appearance through Profane Heroes Gammas.
I don't see why they couldn't. I think that would be very interesting, and it's something you could tie nicely into the Ash Finders as well, because that is all about exploring other vampires' memoria. Essentially, by consuming their ashes, you start to resemble them in various ways that isn't quite similar to a Diablerie, but has some similar strains. Yeah, I think it's definitely possible that you could do that with it. And that's something I really like about lore sheets. They are as flexible, a lot of them, as the players and storytellers want to make them, as long as the player is collaborating with the storyteller and not just trying to surprise the storyteller by saying, haha, I've used this lore sheet to completely screw you. I think they add something really new and fresh to Vampire while focusing a lot on the history of Vampire. So they approach it from two angles, but do it in such a way that, again, I've not seen anyone complain about the presence of lore sheets in Vampire the Masquerade. So yes, I say to you, Martina, definitely, you can do that.
I'm very happy. I'm going to probably use that in my roleplay. And yeah, of course, what is your favorite lore sheet from Let the Streets Run Red?
Oh, probably the Mark Decker lore sheet. He's the Tyrant Prince of Milwaukee, because Mark Decker is an interesting character in that, and a few people pointed this out on forums and elsewhere, that his city, while being a domain that is a police state for vampires, no coteries larger than 5 can congregate at any given time without the prince's permission. You are not allowed to commemorate or celebrate a vampire that has been exiled or has met final death, that kind of thing. It is incredibly punishing to vampires that dwell there. But it is also the safest domain, one of the safest domains in America for mortals. They have had no recorded masquerade breaches because he keeps everything clamped down. It's the old idea, very popular in America, of security versus liberty.
Right.
And he is firmly on the side of security. He is a gangrel warlord in charge of a domain. And I think the lore sheet really plays into that. It allows you to play a character who is very much law and order, and can be the subject of a tyrant, but can justify it in a Camarilla domain. Now, if you took a character like that and put them in an Anarch domain, as Dixie was saying, take them down to Gary or send them to Indianapolis, where the Ministry are nominally in charge, and you're going to start realizing that your way isn't necessarily going to be quite as well received. But it's one of these wonderful openings that can just start pushing you in the direction of telling stories about your character and the way your character will behave around others and the way they will treat you. And I love lore sheets like that aren't just bonuses to dice rolls.
I'm so far, yeah, basically going back to the general products that you guys are putting out. I'm extremely happy that even though we got a lot of enjoyment from Chicago by Night per se, the additional products that are released because of the Kickstarter campaign, such as Let the Streets Run Red, are just basically separate things. They grow into these sizes and they have so much awesome stuff in it. So it leads me naturally to a question about the Codes of the Blood Gods and whether we can expect similar stuff with the codes.
You go ahead, Dixie.
Yeah, no, I was lucky enough to get to write on Children of the Blood, which is my first D5 writing, and it's just a selection of cultists, and their backstories and powers, and I think there's some other stuff in there as well that Matthew could talk about, but I just worked on some of the characters, but it was super fun getting to think of all these kind of very diverse, interesting vampires. And since we weren't restricted to a city for this one, you can kind of place them anywhere. So we have European vampires, and I have a vampire from Atlanta because I used to live in Atlanta, so I figured why not? Which was actually kind of funny because I put in a club called the Masquerade that used to be in Atlanta, and then Matthew was like, "That's too confusing," and I was like, "But it's a real place." But yeah, so I got to work on that, and there were 2 other ones I do believe, Matthew.
Yeah, there's Forbidden Religions,
right,
which is a book all about cults. And what I always say about that is if you look at the cults in Cults of the Blood Gods and you think they're a bit dodgy and unpleasant, the Church of Set, for instance, what could a religion in Vampire the Masquerade be to be forbidden? And that is what is contained in Forbidden Religion. Some really weird and wonderful, including some infernalist groups. I'm sure the audience will be pleased to hear. And Golconda seeking groups too. So, both sides of the coin there. We also have Trails of Ash and Bone, which is another book of stories, very similar to Let the Streets Run Red in its structure. And that includes a story set in Atlantic City. If people listen to The Family, the story I ran for Redmond Role Playing, it's that, but in print, it's been expanded.
I love this chronicle. It's so good.
I can't guarantee it will be quite as bleak in print as it was when I ran it, but that's entirely up to the storyteller.
Wasn't Jason Carl one of the players in that chronicle? I remember. Oh yes, he was. He definitely was.
For a little while.
Yeah.
Before he was rendered to ash.
Spoilers.
Yeah, it's about a year old now. And yeah, we've got another one set in the beautiful domain of Florence, another one in Birmingham, United Kingdom, another one in the forest outside Copenhagen. But these can all be moved around. The Atlantic City one could, without much effort, be moved to Vegas or any place with a res, with a casino. The casinos are the largest part of that one, much as the Florence story could be moved to any, I guess, European historical city. So, yeah, but the one Dixie mentioned, Children of the Blood, I'm very fond of that because it's got a really interesting array of characters that each worships something or is worshipped in turn, either by kindred, ghouls, mortals, has either set up their own cult or is one of the many cogs in the machine of a cult. And there's some varying power levels in there, lots of different clans represented. And I think for a storyteller, let's say you've reached some downtime in a story and you don't want to embark upon another great big chronicle yet, you can go to a book like Children of the Blood and you can take a character out of there and you can pretty much set a story up around one of these SPCs. They can be a new entrant to your domain or someone you've just come across, and based on their story, you can start telling stories for your characters. So yeah, lots of interesting things to come, and that they will all be available in print on demand and PDF now. So that's good news.
I'm so excited. I was for a while there, we thought they were going to be PDF only, and I was sad because I was like, oh, my first V5 writing ever, and I don't get to hold it in my hand, but now I do.
Super happy about that. So, going to the updates and where we can actually find the news about when are these going to release, where can we find you online?
Dixie?
If you're looking for my personal stuff, it's Dixie Cyanide. But if you're looking for Onyx Path releases, it's all at the Onyx Path, whether it's Twitter, what have you. We also have a personal Onyx Path Discord, which is our company-wide Discord. There's links to that, I think, on the Onyx Path website. So you can find us all over there.
And they can find my updates on MatthewDawkins.com, but the onyxpath.com every Monday or Tuesday morning, you will see a new update which will profile what releases we will have that week, where our books are on the schedule, and we always interact with our customers and fans on there too. So if you have a question for us, leave a comment and we will get to it.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. And of course, both of these wonderful peeps are on Twitter, and you guys can go follow them and exchange a lot of TTRPG memes. Send them, especially at Matthew, in the huge doses. Never stop. And I'm sure Matthew is going to be very happy to receive all of them.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much, guys, for joining us today. I wish you good luck on the future releases, and I'm going to go dwell deeper into Let the Streets Run Red, because so far I am just noting very vigorously from the lore sheet parts. So, thank you.
All right, well, have fun.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. See you. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. This was Matthew and Dixie from Onyx Path Publishing, and as they said, Let the Streets Run Red is available right now, and you can check it out on Drive for RPG, on Onyx Path website. Basically, wherever you can get it, grab it. And Cult of the Blood Guts has been sent in the basically early access PDF to the backers, so you can check it out with the full layout. And the errata is going to be added to that later on, fixing anything that the community can find. Thank you so much for the people from the V5 Discord and from all other places around the internet for submitting your bug lists, erratas, and fixes for the publishing companies that are working on these books, because this is awesome. This is basically playtesting in the field, which is something that we are going to be also very grateful for with the companion and all the future products that we're going to release. So if you want to give us a pokes about anything that you find in these books, any bugs to squash, just let us know. And I am going to move forward to get you a little bit of an introduction with other publishing peeps that we are working with. There are multiple partners worldwide that we are working with. Some of you may know them if you are from these particular countries that they operate in, but maybe you are from these countries and you don't know about them yet. So this is a very good time to meet them. Disclaimer though, I actually came up with the idea of introducing them this way on the stream pretty late into the week. I think it was Monday. I mean, late into the week, but you know what I mean. And not all of the partners that we have are going to appear in video today, but they may appear in the future, and we are of course going to talk about all of them later on with Dhaunae. As for now, I'm going to show you one by one wonderful faces of the people who are working with us worldwide. So let's start.
Hi, my name is Thomas Michalski, and over here at Ulysses Spiele, I am the line manager for the German edition of Vampire the Masquerade, or as we call it, Vampire die Maskerade. And indeed, we have already published a couple of books. We have the core rules, we have German editions of Camarilla and Anarch, which is known as Anarchen over here, and we have the GM screen and the booklet. And all these products are pretty much available everywhere, be it in bookstores, in hobby stores, or online. And we're not done by far. Currently we are awaiting approval for Der Fall Londons, which is the German version of The Fall of London, and as soon as we have that, it's going straight to the printers, and if all goes well, it should be in your hands, say at the beginning of 2021. Our next steps after that are Frisches Blut, which is the translation of the New Blood introduction set, and the free compendium PDF that's soon to be released in English, and we want to make it available as soon as possible in German as well, because we find it's a very important thing to have. If you're curious about the stuff we do and curious about the German future of Vampire the Masquerade, we have an own website at ulysses-spiele.de. We have an own shop at f-shop.de. All our digital products are available at Drive-Thru. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on Discord. Basically, there are plenty ways to find and contact us, and we are looking forward to hear from you. We are looking forward to share the German future of Vampire the Masquerade with you in the months to come. And until then, I'll just say, bis bald.
Hi, I'm Héctor Gómez, the lead translator for the Spanish editions of World of Darkness. Nuestro Role is one of the top role-playing games publishers in Spain, and under the name of Biblioteca Oscura, we've been working in the Spanish editions of World of Darkness 20th Anniversary Edition for the last 7 years, and in the Spanish editions of Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition for the last 2. The core book and the Anarchs and Camarillas setting books are already available in Spanish, and we are already working in the Spanish edition of the next several books in the game line. You can find all our products at the major retailers in Spain and Latin America, and if you can find the book you are searching for in your local store, you can always check our online store at notsoloroll.com. We know that the Spanish-speaking community is one of the biggest ones and one of the most active ones in the World of Darkness fandom, so all we can say is thank you for all your support. And don't forget to check bibliotecascura.com and notsoloroll.com for all the latest updates about World of Darkness in Spanish. Thank you.
Hi all, I'm Alexander Kekmakov, head of Studio 101, Russian RPG publisher. We translate and write games since year 2011, and as you can see on the room wall behind my back, we are quite successful. I got acquainted with World of Darkness in 1999, and it was a turning point in my tabletop gaming. By now, our team is actually streaming Hunters Hunted 2 game. You know, it's Nordic drama instant Hammer by Night. But it's in Russian, sorry. We already released some V20 titles in Russian. Announced Anniversary Changeling edition among of V20 supplements. You can find all our printed books on our site studio101.ru and PDFs on DriveThru-RPG. Also, we announced V5 core book and supplements this year and plan to make them available in 2021. Next year, actually, and I hope it will be better than previous one. This one. We are working on some local V5 content, and I hope you'll hear about it soon. So, see you on the dark streets of Modern Nights. Have a great games.
Hello everyone, my name is Radoslav Staszewski, but the friends call me Szewski, and I'm a head of Alice Games from Poland, Polish publisher of the Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition. I am, or I was, a storyteller for Vampire the Masquerade for a long time. I started since I was 17, I think, and it was many years ago. I am a screenwriter, I am a musician, I am a former national coordinator for the Vampire the Eternal Struggle, my favorite card game from the World of Darkness. And of course, I am a father of two. Vampire the Masquerade and working with this franchise was always one of my biggest dreams. And I'm very happy that after many years, this dream comes true. We started Alice Games about 2 years ago. First, it was only like a distributing company for the Vampire the Eternal Struggle card game. But 1 year ago, we started thinking about publishing Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition in Poland. In 2020, we published Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition core book and the storyteller screen. And now we are waiting for the delivery of printed books, Anarchs and Camarilla as well. We developed some short chronicles for the promo purpose, and we published New Blood in PDF form as well. We are working now on the first Polish chronicle called Heart of the Europe, but it's working title only. And we're working on Hunger Chronicles. It's 4 different scenarios for the Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition. We want to publish them in the first quarter of 2021 or spring, I guess. Hopefully it's possible, but we will see. It depends on very different things right now. We're mostly on Facebook on vampire.maskarada. It's a Polish spelling of the Vampire Masquerade. But we also have a web shop on the alicegames.pl. We want to sell products like our role-playing games and card games like VTS in the one web shop. So we want to develop new store in the next month. So I think if in December, if you will put our address alicegames.pl, you will see a different store than now. Okay, we are also on the Instagram, vampire.maskarada, and we also are on Twitter, games_Alice. So thank you, and see you around. Happy to be in the family. Happy to see that Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition is growing. Happy to see that the World of Darkness is growing. Bye.
Ciao family! Ciao, we are Need Games, Nicola, Marco and Pedro, and we are the Italian publisher of World of Darkness 5th edition and many other games. We are so proud to be part of this family, and as I told you, during the day we are publisher, but during the night I am a Malkavian, Marco,
I'm an Nosferatu.
yeah,
So
and
I'm
Pedro,
disappearing.
and Pedro is our good.
No,
Alla
no.
sombra.
The last time we told him
He's
alla
alla
sombra.
Sorry,
I'm alla
he's alla
sombra.
sombra.
Sorry.
Alla
Ecco.
sombra. Okay, okay.
Sorry, Pedro. Sorry. And I'd like to share with you our motto, which is ruolare duro sempre, that in Italian means always role play hard, because we are role players and we role play all day long. But
And all night long.
no.
No?
So during the night we are vampire.
Ah, we are vampire.
Remember,
During
good.
the
I'm sorry. Hard. Always.
And also, for the launch of Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition core book in 2019, we organized in Modena Play the first conclave with our honorable guest as Justicar, Jason Carl. Hi Jason,
Jason. Ciao,
thank
Jason.
you, we miss you. And Vampire core book and
Okay, so what we released right now? We released in 2019 Vampiri, the core book, Vampiri la Masquerade, we call it, and also the special deluxe edition, which we really like. And then Camarilla and Anarch, which is Anarchici in Italian.
the slipcase.
Inside the slipcase, of course. And then we released also The Screen and Chicago by Night this year. Next year, December, we'll be launching Fall of London, the first chronicle for Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition. And then also New Blood, which is the starter set.
Sangue fresco.
Sangue fresco. And we really want to show what we are working on next.
yes, we are very excited about the future. So we are Need Games. You can find us on needgames.it on our website, but also on Instagram and Facebook. So, family,
Oh, we can say it. Ruolare duro.
sempre!
So these were our wonderful, wonderful partners from all around the world. I hope you enjoyed this little presentation that they prepared for you guys. I'm just very, very happy to see them all on camera. And again, there are two partners from the worldwide section that our publishing, our TTRPG books are being published in, which were not included in this particular video segment, and these are our partners from France and from Brazil. And the only reason for that is because I sent them the notification for that a bit too late, and I'm very happy that these guys were able to share their faces. But we're going to, of course, introduce you the other two partners and what they're doing, both through the video in the future What News show and on the interview today with Dhaunae, who is going to join me in just a second. I am going to join her right now and see if she's waiting for me. Hello, hello. Are you there, Dhaunae?
Yes, I'm here.
Perfect. Okay, I'm going to show you to everyone on the stream in just a second, making sure that you are pinned on the screen. There we go. Hi, it's so nice to see you.
Hello everyone. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm very happy to finally have you on the show. And yeah, I guess without further ado, Dhaunae, could you introduce yourself to our family and tell people who you are and what you do?
Okay, so I'm Dhaunae davier. I have been a fan of the World of Darkness for too many years already, over 20 years, 20-something years. I joined a fan community called Biblioteca Oscura, Dark Library, which was the most popular fan site for the World of Darkness back in the day, end of 90s, beginning of the 2000s. I'm a super hardcore fan. I have with me here today this pendant, which I managed to snatch in 1998, something like that, and it was the last one, and this was in Madrid, and I was super lucky to get it somehow. And I've been a fan all of my since then. My best friends come from the World of Darkness. My husband comes from the World of Darkness, and I'm so happy to be a part of the family. So I was thrilled when I was hired in 2016 to be a part of White Wolf. After I had founded in my spare time a company to publish the books, the V20 books in Spanish, because no other publisher wanted to do it, because they said that Vampire was dead, but it was very much undead, as we saw later.
Of course.
And then, yeah, been with working for World of Darkness within Paradox, or attached to Paradox since then, so almost 5 years now, but almost 10 years working in different capacities for World of Darkness, which is my great pleasure, because my work is my hobby. So I'm so happy.
And of course, just to clarify, I'm sure that there are some people in the audience that see you right now on the call and are like, I recognize this girl from somewhere. Where would they recognize you from?
Several places, but I think the better known one is I'm the Tremere stereotype for the V20 core book. So yeah, I'm
You're the face of the Tremere. My biggest
yeah, I'm
enemy.
not sure if that's a good thing or not.
Well, as we are forced to work together, the Setite and the Tremere, I want to ask you about your role. You are the business development manager for Paradox. So what does it mean exactly in practice? What do you do on a daily basis?
So I would like to sum it up in that I help make the wishes of the World of Darkness brand team come true in terms of desired partnerships to create the best products possible. In my particular case, I'm devoted to TTRPG, of course, but also merch and LARP and events.
Yes, so basically we come to you and say, Dhaunae, we want to have a chibi manga anime TTRPG done with with the best possible publisher. Find us one.
You call me and I find it. No problem.
That's perfect. No, I've been a fan of your work since we started working together in March, and I've seen how much of the awesome work you're doing on a daily basis. People don't really get to see this work firsthand, but they basically, all of our family members, they use the effects of that work, the fruits of that work. So all of the merch and TTRPG books that we are releasing thanks to your efforts as well. So thank you tons for your work for the World of Darkness. And speaking of that work, let's talk about our partners. We were able to see some of them on today's videos, but we omitted two just because the late deadline for the videos. But can you tell us a little bit more about our partners from France and Brazil?
So in France, we have the company called Arcane Asylum, which is based in Nice, France. And so shout out from here to Matthias and Tu, who today couldn't be with us, but maybe in the future. And they are a company that have already published the V5 core book, the Storyteller Screen, the Camarilla book, the Honor book, and there are more products in the pipeline for V5. You can get updates from their work on their website, which is arcane-asylum.fr, and also on their Facebook page, which is facebook.com, and then Arcane Asylum without any dash. So yeah, that's France there. I have to say that I've been working with Mattia for a long time, even before joining Paradox, because we were both licensees to the World of Darkness. So he was for World of Darkness 20th anniversary for France, and I was for World of Darkness 20th anniversary for Spanish-speaking countries.
That's great. And what about our partners in Brazil?
So our partners from Brazil, they're amazing. They're Galapagos Jogos. They're located in São Paulo, in Brazil. In 2018, they became a part of Asmodee. So they have now big distribution capabilities, which is always appreciated because we want to spread the family and the on all the fandom. That's one of the things that make my dark heart beat. That's why I was so happy watching all these videos with the family all around the world, and what's coming is just so exciting to see. So for Galapagos Jogos, shout out to Percy Esposito and to Fernando Cabuto, and they're currently working on the V5 core book, which will be released at some point in the near future. And of course, they are looking forward to follow up with the rest of the V5 products. You can get updates on their website, which is galapagosjogos.com.br, and on their Facebook, which is facebook.com/Mundo Galapagos.
That's great. And of course, some of these people that people were able to see today on the videos, and people that we're mentioning, are also developing their own additional little products for their audiences, like some chronicles, some additional books. Could you, in very simple terms, explain to the family how does it work in practice? What's the basically for a publisher and a partner from, let's say, Brazil or France? What's the pipeline of trying to release your own Vampire the Masquerade product?
I like that you say in very simple terms when there are over 10 different stakeholders apparently. But basically, as a business developer, I'm the main hub which connects all these partners amongst them and together with the World of Darkness brand team. And that's how it works. Like, I'm the oil that greases everything and makes it happen, makes it happen, because they're the ones obviously developing all these amazing products. And I try to take out the blockages and so that things can actually happen at a steady pace, which from now onwards it should go pretty smooth, and we should have a steady flow of products, and it's going to be amazing. It's just all I can say.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of the evolving of this process, of course, and trying to nail this down within Paradox throughout the years. And I mean, I personally only witnessed the months of that, but it's still been a really awesome improvement. And all the things that you guys are doing are just super great. But basically, for our audience who is asking, just to give you guys a very clear, I guess, in the super simplified version of this, if you're wondering about any of the books and supplements from these particular partners, once they will go through our approval process and they will be basically published after that in some sort of a reveal, we're going to talk about them on the What News for sure. And in the meantime, Dhaunae, what are you, of course, from the non-ND8 things, the most excited about when it comes to the whole world of darkness and everything that we're doing, that you're observing all the time because we are just on so many meetings together and that you can see all these things?
Okay, so I think it's not very difficult to figure out what I'm, expecting. So that's what I'm looking forward the most. I, of course, welcome very much with open wide arms the La Sombra, because that's my favorite clan. As you can see, I'm a little bit glitchy today here, where the technology is not helping much. Clan Bane, what can I say? And yeah, that's Sabat.
I see. I see. As a fellow anarch that totally is not Sabbat, of course, I partially understand. Thank you so much, Dhaunae, for joining us. Let us know where we can find you online. Are you tweeting? Are you posting? Are you somewhere publicly that people can interact with you?
So I have almost already 5,000 friends on Facebook, and it's just people that love World of Darkness, just like me. So feel free to add me on Facebook. I also have Twitter. It's very easy. It's like facebook.com/Dhaunae, twitter.com/Dhaunae, Instagram.com/Dhaunae, everything like that. I don't post much on Twitter or Instagram because I'm trying to work very hard to get things released as soon as possible. But I'm there, and I try to be as responsive as I can be, because I really like to interact with fellow people from the family. So yeah.
That's great. And bonus question for the very end, because we need to end on a high note. Could you give us any exciting LARP story?
Any exciting what?
LARP story from your LARP adventures.
Well, oh my goodness. Well, I think to me the most exciting one, that's I don't know. I have two. Can I?
Yes, two. Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
I was going to say one. I was like, no, I'm betraying myself. I can. Okay. So my first one that was super amazing, that I thought, how can I be so lucky to be here, is when I was at the Grand Masquerade, one Grand Masquerades, and there was this Camarilla LARP, and I was a Toreador that was lucky enough to accompany the Ventru, which was the envoy from the Prince. But this is the Prince of London. But this is amazing because we were traveling actually from London to the actual place, to New Lanes, where actually this was taking place. And the rest of the princes in that Prince Conclave also came from the respective places. Like we had, for example, the Prince of Hawaii, and she had come from Hawaii all the way.
That's
and I was
awesome.
like, this is so awesome. It couldn't be better, right? And I have to say, at that part of the LARP, I didn't have the right to even speak. I just was there as a listener, but I was so happy, just representing my character, because my character did not have the right to speak up. But I was just being enthused, or looking all around, and like, this is why I LARP. This is what I always wanted in my life. So that was one thing, and I thought, we cannot top this up. Because also the Grand Masquerade environment was so amazing and so cool, and in general all the arts were so, oh my goodness. So
I love this answer already, and I can't wait for the second one.
yeah, it's like, Grand Masquerade, I cannot wait for a point in which we'll have another Grand Masquerade. So my second thing is that I couldn't forget about was, of course, the first Convention of Thorns. I was there. I was in that castle, which is magnificent.
In Poland,
with
right?
Yes, with all these characters dressed up to the nines, so believable. Those, makeup skills that I definitely don't have.
Really?
And it was
Watch
so
her right
amazing.
now.
It's like, is this? Yeah, I was like, is this LARP or is this real life? It was so immersive. I love that, and I think everyone that really loves LARP should experience that at least once in their lives, because it's amazing. So those are my two top experience from LARP. I have many others, but these are my top two.
I live vicariously through the LARP stories I'm hearing on the interviews that I'm making. So I'm always asking people who are LARPing this particular question because I've never LARPed vampire, and it's so painful for me that I never did it. So we need to one day do it.
We have to fix that.
Yes.
We have to fix that.
Yes, and fights horribly and basically just like make a cat fight because you're either a Tremere or a La Sombra or a Sabat. I don't know who you are, but I'm a Setite and I'm going to shoot snakes at you. Because why not? And Dhaunae, it was super nice to have you here, and thank you so much for sharing the stories and your excitement and your enthusiasm for everything that you're doing. This shows in your work. Thank you so much for doing so much for World of Darkness. It's really amazing, and for introducing our partners. And I hope that you will visit us again on the show, especially when we'll finally have LARPs going on.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah, I would love to come back. It's been a pleasure for me to be here today, sharing this space with all of you from all around the world. I love the family. I've always have, and yeah, it's so great to have been here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dhaunae, and see you later. And yeah, let's catch up later. Bye.
See you. Bye.
So guys, that was Dhaunae from Paradox. She's working with me. I'm very, very, very glad that I am able to work with such amazing people as her and other people that are working as our business developers and in our brand team. It's a pleasure. As you can see, all of these people are horrible, horrible nerds. So I fit right in. And I guess from the videos today with our partners, you can basically see that we are all this kind of a nerdy group of nerds. Guys, thank you so much for joining me today. We went way over an hour because why not? It was a long episode with a lot of passionate people involved. And I'm going to see you next week as usual, every single week with more news. I guess next week we might do a more traditional episode because we accumulated a lot of news over the past few weeks when we were doing more oriented episodes. So there's a lot to talk about. And I'm going to leave you at that. Remember to join us on Discord at discord.gg/World of Darkness in order to discuss all of the things and ping me about all of the reasons and memes and stuff. It's fine. Just do it. And see you later. Goodbye.